Does the thought of creating a business plan freak you out? Especially the financial part of a business plan? I don't blame you. And that's why I brought this very special guest on today's Business Ed show with me. Welcome, Pamela Chatri. Pamela is a business coach. She's been around for she's 39 now, so it's only been a few years.
There you go. Yes.
But it's such a big, important topic that I really wanted Pamela to come on and talk to us about what goes into a business plan and to demystify it so that it isn't so scary and such an overwhelming thing, a task, an albatross about our business. But at the end of the day, it's really important. So welcome to the show, Pamela.
Thank you so much for having me, Susan. This is such it's an amazing topic that's near and dear to my heart. And if we can help one or two people or thousands of people out there, whoever, just to consider writing a business plan and not diving straight in or preparing for a business plan that maybe needs a business's growth or whatever, we'd happy to do that.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So Pamela, last time we got together, we talked about the importance of having a business plan and why people should be using a business plan and under what circumstances. So today I wanted to invite you back and talk about what goes into a business plan, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who have this great idea and want to jump into entrepreneurship, but they might not even be aware that they need a business plan. And now that we've convinced them that they do, now what do they do? You know, what goes into a business plan? Now, how can we help them out with that part?
What goes into a business plan? Well, I think the first thing to do is to start out with what I consider your idea, your vision. What is it that's your dream? When we're talking an established business or just the idea stage, it doesn't matter. Everybody has a dream of what this business is going to look like. And last time when we talked, I gave the trip analogy, you know, that you have this dream of going somewhere in the world, and you really only know that Venice is Venice and it has canals, right? Doing your homework around that trip and, you know, deciding where you want to go and where you want to visit and what hotels you're going to stay in. I liken it back to your business plan. What is your equivalency of Venice or Mexico or wherever your dream vacation is? So start with your vision. Start with a description of what this dream looks like. And then the other piece that's very important is to talk about why you are qualified to run this business. You or your partners, you may have partners as well. Talk about the people behind the dream. What qualifies you? What experience do you bring to the table? Who's going to be a part of this business? Talk about the people behind it. And then the other piece that's very important to just spend some time planning is your values and your vision. Your values are, what do you stand for? What does your business stand for? What ethics do you believe in? How do you plan on running your business? How do you plan on hiring? What kind of people do you want? When we talk about the values of a vision, of your idea, it's often like having Disneyland, and you think of Disneyland and you immediately think of a happy place and honesty and integrity and imagination. You know, those are all the kinds of words that come into play.
Right.
And your business you can identify those same values. If you don't know what you're going to run this company by with ethics, then really you're not going to hire right. You're not going to be running a business and treating your customers the way that they should be treated. So the 4 key areas, just to get started, is to ensure that you've got your values, your vision, you've got the players, the executive team or the person behind all of this, and people.
Right.
Maybe you've got a team of people that are making your wreaths, like we talked about last time. And then the next key area, I'm going to refer back to the last time we talked, is your market research. And everything that you've done up to this point can go into the preliminary stages of your business plan.
Yeah. And it's so cool that you were talking about the values, Pamela, because not long ago we just did a rebranding of eVision Media. And before I jumped in and got my designer to start working on new logo concepts, we actually did a lot of that preliminary work.
Yes.
And one of them was really getting firm on the values, not only for me to get firm on our values, but also communicating that to my team.
Yes.
And so what I did was I wrote out a document, and at the end of the day, our values is trust. Our whole business at eVision Media is based on trust.
Right.
And I wrote out a whole document, and I sent it out to the team, and I said, everything that we do needs to sit on this trust foundation.
Brilliant.
And I think it really made a big difference, because from there, then the whole team was aware of what our brand positioning is and how our new logo should look and how our new website should look and how we should be marketing ourselves. And so it really does, all of that initial analysis and work really does stem into the culmination of how your brand is presented to the world.
Beautifully put, Susan. It is so important. And if you, again, back to an idea stage business, if you are just launching a business, you will need to go through a branding process. You know, I know many entrepreneurs immediately want to design their business cards and their websites, and you know, and I thought, oh my gosh, I got this, you know, and I'm so excited about it. But branding is a very long process, and I know you and I will be chatting about this whole marketing piece in a future episode.
Yeah.
But branding, the foundation of branding is starting with your values and with your ethics.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned trust, and that's a big one. If a business is not trusted, then you don't have a business.
Yeah.
You know, quality product, whatever your ethics or your values are, you will be asking your staff to perform to those levels. You will hire according to those standards. Values come into every single solitary play. Our customer service promises.
Yes.
Right? That's a big, how we treat our customers comes back to values.
And if we don't treat our customers, then we're just not going to have a sustainable business.
Exactly.
You know?
So this is foundational work in your business planning. And once you've got that out of the way, it's a benchmark. You will go back time and time again, I guarantee it, over the course of owning your business. You're going to go back and say, what did we say? What did we promise we were going to be?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I did. Just went back to the old documents that I had done several years ago. And, right. You know, luckily we were still doing it, but it's great to refresh your memory.
It is.
And then revisit that and see if there's anything that needs to be adjusted and changed. And that's for somebody who's been in business for a while, but if you're brand new in business, then you've got to start with those.
That's right.
So what else goes into a business plan?
Well, it's again, it's very foundational. If you're an existing business, you'll have a lot of this already. But pulling it in, I liken it to writing a book, and it's different chapters of a book. You know, you have the first chapter, which is all your introductions, and we've just talked about those. And then the next chapter, there's areas of concern. There's areas like, how will I produce? Operations, processes, and systems. How am I going to not only produce, but how am I going to get product to market, or how am I going to service my clients if I'm a coach, for example? What does that look like? And so the operations part is extremely important. And under that, I encourage a human resources plan. And many times a business owner will say, Pamela, there's just me. Why do I need a human resources plan?
Right.
You know, I don't have any people and I don't intend to hire.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You may not intend to hire. However, you will be using people.
You will be using contractors.
You will be using contractors. You will be using subcontractors.
Yeah.
You may hire casual labor. I have one client who started his whole business just with hiring casual labor. And then eventually he ended up hiring them permanently.
Right.
So how and what kind of support you're going to need from people. And people takes a huge amount of management. And again, I go back to the values piece. If you're designing an HR plan, you'll want to identify those values under which you want people like-minded. You know, maybe if you're we'll go back to my plumbing example the last time. If you're a plumber, you may want to subcontract to a painter. well, you'll want that painting company to be on the same page as you, to have a
Yes.
good track record,
Yes.
maybe treat their customers the same.
Right, because they're representing your brand, and if they screw up, then it's your business that gets the fallout.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's lots of consideration in under HR, and you don't have to be a big company. You can be a one-person show, but you still have HR needs.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a whole nother topic. And I've had an HR consultant, Catherine Harpixson, on our show in the past, and talking about HR, and it's funny how it's something that people just don't think they need, and they don't realize what the ramifications are if they don't have the HR plan in place.
Yeah.
Because they can really be setting themselves up for a major lawsuit or fines from the government if they're not doing things right.
May I share a story?
Absolutely.
Thank you. A number of years ago now, but a particular client group, but I don't want to identify them completely, but they had a business that they opened, and they did not do an HR plan and did not sort of prepare themselves, and they hired the right people to perform the services, but they did not hire right for their bookkeeping. And again, it's part of your HR plan is recognizing what your bookkeeping and accounting needs will be. So they trusted the bookkeeper. They just hired, to use the term willy-nilly, and the bookkeeper failed to pay GST, and they did not double check on what were their checks and balances that they needed in place, and all of this was not prepared. And one day the GST police came in and took the business over.
Oh my gosh.
With thousands upon thousands of dollars in arrears. Yeah.
And that's not only, so I know of a couple of businesses who went through the same thing. They trusted their bookkeeper. They just assumed that everything was being done the way it was supposed to be done.
Yeah.
Only to find out the bookkeeper was siphoning some money off of, instead of paying the government, they were taking it for themselves.
Yes.
It's like, that's a whole nother topic too.
It is, and not to say that all bookkeepers are, let's not pick on bookkeepers today, but because there's some fines, but it's knowing what is your criteria. How do you know you're going to get a great bookkeeper? What do you want to know? Have you done your reference checking? And we've so HR is a huge area of your business, and it's an important part of the plan. And then the other areas, of course, are financial. And this is the first thing I recommend people do is in an early stage or an incubator stage is to do a personal budget.
Yeah.
To understand how much they need, and then we start to look at the business numbers.
And I think the financial part, I mean, I just saw you cringe out there.
Oh, no, money.
No, I don't want to talk about money. Let's just skip that and get to the fun part. Yeah, but... You can't run a business if you don't know your numbers, right?
No. I had a client once who came to me and she said, I love what I do. She produced beautiful, beautiful clothing, and she really had a really good market, and she had lots of sales, but she had no idea of how much those garments cost her to make.
Oh.
So she had never had anybody sit down with her and do an examination of her cost of goods.
Oh.
So she would make, we'll just say, one pair of pants. She had no idea how much that pair of pants cost. She knew how much she could retail it for, but she didn't know whether she was making money on that or not. And because of that, she didn't know whether or not she should go and find suppliers who could give her further discounts.
Right.
So once she got that number established of how much it actually cost her to produce a pair of pants, she was able to realize that, if she produced 100 of them, it would cost her so much, but she could go back at 100 and back to her supplier and say, can you give me a little more discount, and put more money in for profit.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of that big profit, remember, we're all in business for profit.
Exactly.
We're not a hobby here.
Yeah.
That's a big, big subject. My goodness. The finances. And I think after years of talking with women entrepreneurs and watching conversations on social media, I think the money is a really big hang up, especially for female entrepreneurs and some men, but we see it a little bit more with the women. And goodness, do you have any words of wisdom about the money thing with women entrepreneurs?
Well, I have a simplified financial planning process that helps my entrepreneurs, both men and women, to go through this structure of seeing exactly what the costs are. And we talked earlier about research, whether it's researching your customer, researching your competition. The other thing that's very important is if you research your costs. And it's so easy because you see the truth. When you start to identify those numbers, you start to realize how much everything is going to cost you. And so I say, don't be afraid. This is not something that's going to scare you once you get into it. You're basing everything on fact.
Yeah, and it actually will provide you with peace of mind, will it not?
Exactly.
You know that you're on the right track.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that fear might be from they're afraid of what they're going to find out.
Yes.
They're afraid that they're going to discover that what they're doing isn't going to work or whatever. But you want to know that long before you've wasted a lot of time and effort and money.
Well, and on the exciting side, it also demonstrates to you once you get a handle on your expenses and you look at what revenues you need. It gets you excited because you say, well, wow, this is exciting. Look at the potential. Maybe you thought you had to produce 1,200 widgets and you only have to produce 500 to make money. So then it can work the opposite as well.
Absolutely.
It can set, that spark.
Yeah. And that can be very motivating, right? That can really kick you into gear and really think of this as a solid business and that it's going to get you results as long as you just put in that effort and go for it. I love that advice, and please heed Pamela's advice, because I think there's just way too many people who are holding themselves back because of that fear of money. And so I'm glad we talked about that.
Me too, because it's fear is usually based, or insecurities are based on lack of knowledge. And business planning is about knowledge. The more knowledge you have, the more prepared you'll be, and the less risk and less scary. And then it can justify that you are on the right track. So finances are, yes, they're not a comfortable place, but you're not basing them on your own finances. Let's remember that too. This is not your spending habits. This is what your business is going to spend. And this is also about the revenues of your business. And if you have a fear of numbers as a business owner, I'm sorry, you cannot run a business without knowing your numbers. It's get a good accountant.
Have a business coach like you, Pamela, to work with them so that Pamela can take that fear out and be the logical, reasonable person to throw that stuff against, because not everybody is analytical or loves the calculator. There's a lot of
I wasn't born
people.
that way.
Really?
But I've learned to respect what it can do.
That's a good point.
And my clients, whether they're they're very established businesses, one of the things that we really work hard on is tracking numbers and measuring success. And so if you track your numbers and you can say, well, wow, I predicted that I would sell 20 sessions as a coach this month, and I'm already up to 40, that's tracking. You can see, and then you start to ask the question, well, what's making this so successful? What am I doing right?
And what more should I be doing?
And what
of
more
that?
should, exactly. So tracking and measuring success through numbers, and it doesn't matter whether it's budget numbers or revenue numbers or profit, just even tracking numbers of all sorts of different measures, and it's a very complicated subject, but it can really help you to sample success and feel it and ignite you.
And there's nothing more fantastic than that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about operations and the values and the HR, finances. What else?
Well, and of course, this is near and dear to your heart, is marketing. We cannot ever write a business plan without planning what our marketing is going to look like. Marketing, let's combine that with sales. It doesn't matter what stage of business you're in, you really do have to understand how you're selling and why you're selling, and who you're going to sell to, and where are they in this world? So sales and marketing come hand in hand with your business plan, and it doesn't have to be complex. What I do recommend is that you have a 3-month pre-opening plan, and then a 12-month post-opening plan to begin with. What activities are you going to do every month? Where are you going to go? What does that look like? And I know that this is probably the most important part because this is your revenue.
Yeah, this is where you're going to make all your
Yeah.
money. And it's so important that Pamela and I decided that we're going to do another interview and talk nothing but marketing plan.
Yes.
Because if you don't market, if you don't advertise, your business is not going to go very far.
Yeah.
It's just not going to flourish in the way that you want it to.
That's
so
right. Yeah.
it's a very important topic, and I talk about marketing plans quite a bit too. And I think it would be awesome to have Pamela come in with a fresh perspective and offer some new ideas that so I'm not just constantly saying the same old thing over and over again.
Well, what is it, the teacher, right? Yeah. Well, I think what we're doing, Susan, is we're also relating this to the business plan process, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
A marketing plan is ongoing through a business, and I know every successful business in the world knows where they're taking their marketing for the next year to whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But from a pre-opening or just an incubator business, or even someone who's in business already, if you haven't structured, and that's a big word here. What we're talking with business planning is structure. Mm-hmm. You're putting in the basis, the foundations, the structure of how you will proceed. And marketing needs structure just the same way your finances need structure. Or your human resources.
You can't just throw spaghetti on the wall and hope something sticks. And I know that's an old cliche, but darn it works.
It works every time. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, so thank you so much for joining us, Pamela. I know that you work with a lot of entrepreneurs and small businesses and bigger businesses and helping them with their business plan. How can people get a hold of you?
Well, they can contact me at Pamela@PamelaChatry.com, or go to my website, and you can contact me through my website as well. And I'd love to talk to you. If you just have an idea, or you're a little bit fearful about writing a plan, please know it's not that difficult. It really, if you're struggling with writing,
Get help. You
Yeah.
don't need to do it all yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing that we women tend to do is we just feel like we're less than. If we don't know enough, it's something to be ashamed of. Instead of embracing the fact that we have a vast resource of help out there, and all we have to do is ask.
Yes.
And you're
that's right.
one of the great resources that a lot of businesses can really depend on.
Well, we like to think that we can do everything, and we can't. And business owners, you obviously have passion for what you do, you love what you do, or you're excited about this new idea. Writing a business plan, or just getting the business organized, planning for the business, will help eliminate risk down the road.
Absolutely.
Take the time now and consider it a gift to yourself.
Oh, that's a great way. A gift to yourself and to your business.
And to your business.
Yeah,
that's right. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for that little gem. And that's what we'll end on the show today. So that's it for today's Business Ed Show. Thank you so much, Pamela, for joining us on
Susan.
this interview. And
always a pleasure being with you. Thank you. This is great conversation.
I
love it.
It is. And I hope that you have found this informative. And if you did, please leave a comment below. And if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and click the subscribe button, because stay tuned. In a subsequent show, I'm going to ask Pamela back, and we're going to talk about marketing plans and what you need to know in order to grow and thrive in your business. Yeah. So that's it for today. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye
for now.
Thank you.
Does the thought of creating a business plan...
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, wrong.
Okay.
Thanks for checking.